It's an exciting time at the moment, obviously in the cement industry, because we have a lot of innovation and changes that we're working on at the moment. So one of the things, obviously, evoZero with our carbon capture plant that we're doing in Brevik and in Payswood. But also one thing we're pushing towards is reducing our coal in our cement. So when we make bag of cement, we want to remove the coal from the fuel system and use an alternative. So firstly, let's understand where the CO comes from. So there's two main areas. One of them's a process, which is where the carbon capture plants come in to remove the CO from the system. And the other element is the fuels. So as we know, coal is a fossil fuel, and that is traditionally what we use in the cement plant to generate the heat for the energy. So just to explain a little bit how it works, so I'll take you into basic terms how we make a bag of cement. So firstly, what we do is we quarry limestone. This is then ground into a fine powder. This fine powder is then transferred into our preheated tower into the kiln. The powder is then we need the calcium carbonate out of the limestone, which is where the heat process comes in. So typically our kilns are heated to around 1450 degrees, which is why we use coal. Coal is a perfect fuel for keeping our clinker and cement quality high, and also creating the energy required in the tower and in the kiln to be able to produce the product we're after. What we normally do is we transport coal onto site via different suppliers. This coal will be ground into what we call a pulverised fuel, or a PF, and then it's blown into either the main burner or into the pre-calciner, and that's what gives us the energy to make basically clinker, which is ground to make cement. So one of the questions you're probably asking is, what have we done as a business to reduce this? Now, one of the we're looking at is something called alternative fuels. Now, this has become a reality. So a lot of industry, or a lot of the cement plants within the UK are now pushing the use of alternative fuels by using either SRF, RDF, SemFuel or MBM. Now, in the UK, for the free cement works, so Ketton, Ribblesdale and Payswood, we've been using this for a number of years now. So typically we've been around 65-70% alternative fuels, whereas now Ketton has got a alternative fuel rate of 90%. Just put that into perspective, we now only use 10% coal, which works out around a tonne an hour. If we can compare that to the rest of the world, so in China, according to the International Cement Magazine, they only use 2% TSR. In Europe, it's 58%. So not only are we above, we're now leading the way to reduce coal from our cement. Ribblesdale carried out a 2.5 hour run where they actually used no cement, and they did that by introducing hydrogen into the main burner. Last year, we did a trial at Ketton where we actually run with no coal at all for a short period of time, and also at Ribblesdale we did the same. So as a business, I think we are taking it that one step further, where we're now introducing different aspects of how we can reduce our CO2. So maybe one of the questions you ask is, why are we not running with no coal now? Now, there's a lot of things we need to consider. So a cement plant isn't just an incinerator where we can just throw anything into it and we get a product at the end. So two of the main things we need to consider is the CV value of the fuel, and also the moisture content. So it's really, really important that the fuel we get supplied is controlled at the levels we require, so we can make a good quality cement. The other aspect that we need to do is make sure that the equipment we use is reliable. So the kilns run at a 24/7 process, and they don't stop. So if we don't have fuel supplied to the kiln, that means the process stops and it impacts on our production. Other considerations is we need to balance the alkali, the chlorides and the sulphur from the alternative fuels. The reason behind that is because if we have excess any of them, it can cause two problems, which is either blockages in the cyclones or on the kiln, or we can also have a low quality product. So it's when it comes to using alternative fuels, it is a balancing act to make sure we get it right, so we can also make sure we have the right quality product at the end of it. The other thing we need to consider is a balance between production and alternative fuel rate. So the higher the alternative fuel rate, the less production output, because of the gases that are produced from the alternative fuels restricts the tonnage on the clinker within the kiln. So I think as a business we are pushing and striving towards reducing our coal. We're not quite there yet, but we are not far away, and I think within the next year, 2 years, with the innovations and with the products we've got coming in, then I think zero coal in cement is becoming a reality. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Presentation. Managing the health and safety challenges with having hydrogen on site relative to some of the fuels.
So the trial at the time was a number of years ago, and it was carried out by the Ribblesdale team. I think was you involved? Rachel was involved with that time, so she might be able to answer this a bit better. But obviously the reason we don't use hydrogen is because that's one of the reasons why. So obviously from the health and safety aspect, we haven't got the knowledge and the engineering aspects on site to be able to manage at the moment. Obviously if we go down that route in the future, then we'd have to make sure that we've got the relevant people to manage that situation from a safety perspective. Obviously the other element of hydrogen is making sure that we get enough to be able to provide the burner the amount of fuel to be able to produce the energy, because I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but I know it requires quite a lot of hydrogen to be able to keep the kilns running to burn on site. So we've proved we can do it. We've proved that the technology is there, but obviously there's a lot more development required when you're talking about obviously the health and safety side, and also to make sure we have enough on site so we can keep the kilns running. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks very much. Can I be greedy and ask another question?
Yeah, that's fine.
So some of the power stations are switched on to using wood pellets like drones. Is that something that
what we're using at the minute is it's not a wood pellet, but it's what we call an SRF pellet. So we've been using it at Ketton now for a number of years. So what they do is they use, so it's the same as SRF and RDF, but they compress it into a pellet very similar to the wood pellet, and then we transport it pneumatically into the main burner to use as a fuel. I'm not sure if Nina can answer that question or not, more from the wood side. So obviously that's the RDF we use, so that's like our non-processed product, and it does have wood elements in there, but I don't know, yeah, I hope Nina's answered that. Anyone got any more questions? Well, look, I'm around if anyone's got any more questions I don't want to ask at the moment, but thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.